All right, welcome to our WARR Media Super Bowl special, where we will take a look at the 57th edition featuring the NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles, who are in their fourth Super Bowl in franchise history, and the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs, who are in the big game for the third time in the last 4 years. I am Saul Rodriguez, along with my WARR colleagues Ken Davis, who you can also see on NBC Sports Chicago's Under Center podcast, Joe Tanksley, who you might have seen on our Bears pre- and post-game coverage all season long, and our guest of honor today, anchor of Philadelphia's KYW News Radio, we have Jay Scott Smith. Thanks for coming on, Jay. Appreciate it.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
And Ken, how you doing today, man?
I'm well, man. How are you all doing?
Good. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm excited to get through this weekend.
Yes, sir. Super Bowl. It feels like the holiday, right? It's always like, it's almost like, you know, you get through January and you get this in this week, and it's like, you know, it's like Christmas all over again. You got all these things going on. So we'll get right into it, man. I'm going to start with Jay, obviously being our Philadelphia representative, man. So, you know, you got a lot of the talking points this week have been injuries, right? Whether it's Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, obviously with it being his shoulder. You know, there's a great piece from Sharp Football Analysis, you know, where they talk about how the shoulder has affected his play. And there's been a slight increase in the inaccuracy of his throws as well as his rushing efficiency. But I wanted to get your opinion. Like, you think it's going to be a big deal on Sunday, or is it one of those things that's being made a big deal for no reason?
If this had been like a week or two after the shoulder injury, it would probably be a bigger thing.
Mm.
In the game where they played the Giants at the end of the regular season, it was clear that he wasn't right, but he needed to get out there and get loose. Then he got 2 weeks off because of the bye, looked a lot better against the Giants in the playoff game when they ran all over him. And even in the San Francisco game, he was not nearly as accurate. The best throw that he had was the one that Devontae Smith drops, but they called a catch at the very beginning there that helped him out. The thing with the Eagle offense is they're so run oriented and they do so many of the RPOs and you don't know where that ball is going. So that's actually helped him out. I don't think it'll be as much of an issue because, again, you get the 2 weeks. And just like we'll get to Mahomes' ankle too, you get 2 weeks to be able to at least start to move around. It's going to be a little bit easier on him. I don't see the shoulder being nearly the problem it would have been if this had been maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And whether or not he's super accurate with his passes and everything, it will help if he can find A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Plus, he can hit those running backs, and there's Dallas Goedert. They've got all sorts of options to go to. But even if he can't throw that football, you have to respect the possibility of him throwing it, which opens up run lanes for so many of these different backs that they have.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, people will talk about, they're making him, play the short game. But with this team, with this many offensive weapons, I don't really think that's a negative because of how these guys can play. But Ken, what's your thoughts on the whole Jalen Hurts thing as well?
Look, I gotta ask Jay a question because this has bothered me. It's one of the things we talk about on the UC all the time is using dual threat quarterbacks and sometimes saving them from themselves. Jay, when it was a Bears game when he got injured, and a bad Bears defense was laying wallops on Jalen Hurts. It was like, whoa, like he's taking hits out here. You can hear the pops from the screen. What were the thoughts in Philadelphia? And the game was closer than what it should have been, but clearly the Eagles were going to beat the Bears, that he was running up the gut like that several times and taking those hits that he took, knowing that you guys were the odds-on contender in the NFC, and really it was no one blocking your route to get to the Super Bowl.
The thing with Jalen Hurts is he's tougher than a $2 steak, and that's what they've been doing this whole year. Is just attacking, going straight at it. I mean, I'll be the first to say I grew up in Detroit. I watched what they did to the Lions in the first game of the season too. That's how they are. They have that offensive line where they're just going to continue to attack. And that was the rare game, that Bears game, because I was thrown off by it. I'm thinking, the Bears, really?
Right.
That defense was getting through the Eagles O-line, which is maybe the best one in the game. That was the rare time where we had seen Jalen get hit like that repeatedly. And even if he's normally a guy where he likes to welcome that contact, he squats 600 pounds. The dude's tough. And he, in the first hit, rarely brings him down. That was the rare game. And I think they even attributed some of it to the weather because it was super cold in Chicago that day too, that he was going down first hit. And then they were just laying on him and laying on him and laying on him. That's a rare instance. And it had people thinking, honestly, of what happened with Carson Wentz 5 years ago, where the last thing you need is in a game against a team that's probably not going anywhere, and you go out here and get hurt in Chicago, and now you got to hand it off to Minshew, and they did for 2 games, and we saw what happened there. And that was like the biggest thing here in Philly is that everybody was kind of holding their breath is that, okay, Is he going to be back in time for the postseason? We saw 2 games of Minshew and Jalen. Jalen's super tough anyway. He would have played in Dallas if they let him. They weren't going to let him do it, but he would have played in Dallas. He would have played New Orleans, and they let him come back for the Giants, but really tailored that game. That was the Chicago game was maybe the biggest turning point because that's where people got the idea that they might have a shot at Philly. It turned out that they really don't. It's that we'll get into that in a second. They really don't. People are kind of underestimating how good these Eagles actually are.
Now, Saul, for me, I think his injury is out of the 2 quarterbacks is, I don't want to say the least important. It's going to affect them the least because of everything that Jay said. It's the running attack. Mm-hmm. And I will say this, if you had more tape of him not being able to run, because you can see that he's kind of being careful because there's no reason to get hurt again on some of these games when they have too many weapons to go out there and get yourself injured. As long as they can throw and slow down those linebackers and DBs with the RPOs, it's going to be hard, man. You know who my baby is. Oh, Jay, my baby, I call him Baby Goat. That's Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be hard for that team with a defense, and I'm talking about the Chiefs, it's situational. It's not terrible. Situationally, they step up at times, and we know what they have on their line. It's going to be hard for them to stop that running attack of the Eagles, man. It's just that's all I got to really say.
Equalizer. It's the great equalizer because it's like running backs are coming at least a little bit more. Probably you do it more in volume now as opposed to having 1 or 2 standalone backs. The Eagles got Boston Scott or Miles Sanders. This Gainwell kid's really good. Jalen himself can still run the football. You've effectively got 4 running backs out there who can do all sorts of damage, and that's before one of them will then pull back and drop it off to Brown or to Devontae Smith or to Dallas Goedert. They come at you too many different ways, and that's what makes them so versatile and so scary.
Yeah, and Joe as well. What do you think about the situation with Jalen Hurts, and do you think it's going to affect them on Sunday at all?
I think with the 2 weeks off and with him, with the makeup of Jalen Hurts, and like Jay said, how tough he is. I don't think the shoulder issue is going to be a big issue during the game. I think he's going to be prime and ready to go. We've seen it throughout his career. He's a championship player, and he's a winner. He's won everywhere he's been, Alabama, Oklahoma, and I don't think it's going to be any different now in the Super Bowl. I think he knows what it takes for these big moments, and I think he's going to be prime and ready for it. And the biggest thing is, the Eagles do have, the best offensive line in football. It was kind of an admiration of what happened against the Bears, and it really, got us excited here at home. But that's not something that's going to happen too often. And you talk about the balance of the Eagles team. There really isn't a hole on the roster, when you talk about defensively, offensively, and the weapons that they have. And Jay also mentioned the running attack. I've been really excited to see the emergence of Gainwell and what he's been able to do in the playoffs. You can't forget about Miles Sanders, who I didn't even hear Jay mention, but oh, he did. Okay, but I think the Eagles are more equipped to handle, a situation like that with the amount of talent that they have.
Yeah, and kind of transitioning now to what the Kansas City Chiefs have to do as well to beat the Eagles. Everyone's been talking about Patrick Mahomes' injury as well as high ankle sprain, but it's been I feel like it's kind of dulled down a little in the last couple of days. I feel like everything's nobody's really as worried as as they used to be. And I mean, we saw what he can do against the Bengals even with that injury as well. But Jay, what's your thoughts on the whole Patrick Mahomes injury, and is that something that that in Philadelphia is a big talking point, or is one of those things where it's like it's Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't matter?
It's one of those where if you saw the AFC Championship game, you just look at the numbers he put up effectively on one leg in cold weather against the AFC champion, a team that beat him 3 straight times. On one leg, he's out here throwing for 300 plus yards. And and even during the heat, because he talked today too, and we got some of that sound on our station here, is that he says that ankle feels better. And I'm going to take him at his word that the ankle feels better. So that's the scary thing with him, is that he, much like Jalen Hurts, but much more experienced, he can also kind of freak you out a little bit, because even if he's not going to be running, because even this year he wasn't doing as much of that just out open field running thing, he has that ability. He's almost like Steph Curry, where Steph Curry will put guys on roller skates and he's slick with his little moves and everything else. At least one game every time, at least one point in every game, he just does something. Is like, why? I'm expecting him to throw a behind the back pass at some point. Yeah. It's just like, and it'll hit for a touchdown because it always does. The thing with him is you almost have to figure out a way to keep him contained, because as quick as that Eagle defense is and as tough as they are, and you can't let Hassan Reddick get to you, or Brandon Graham get to you, or anybody on that line, and Dominican Sue or Linval Joseph. That is a loaded defense. If they can get to him, you can slow him up. But that's the thing with Mahomes. You almost have to kind of live with that notion that this guy is going to do something that is going to make you angry. Even if you're a fan of his, it just makes you angry. Like, bro, what are you doing? And he'll get it there. I think he's going to be just fine. And the thing is, the Eagles are preparing as if they're going to get vintage Patrick Mahomes, not the one-legged 350-yard passing Patrick Mahomes. It's hard to figure out. This is, I know with him, it's him and it's Kelsey. Jason Kelsey is like the guy that they're going to have to just make sure they sell out on, almost as if they're willing to try to hope that one of those running backs, as I guess Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be back for this thing too. Mm-hmm. One of these running backs is going to have to get them, because they're going to keep an eye on Kelsey and just hope that Mahomes doesn't pull out some Steph Curry-like silliness in the middle of all this, and they end up scoring a touchdown that you just don't expect.
And it's funny because you're talking about Patrick Mahomes doing all these, Steph Curry-like passes. We saw what Kelsey's trying to do, trying to lateral at one point. I forgot who it was at one in the championship game. So it's contagious, I guess, right? Everyone's doing it. But Ken, I'll give you the floor, man. As baby goat, I know you're not worried one bit, right?
No, I am worried, to be honest with you. Because look, it's a high ankle, and it was 2 weeks ago. But all it takes is that one bad step that you're not thinking about, or put it even more like this. It's a step that you didn't plan on, because when you can plan the direction that you're going, it's easier to compensate for injury like that. But it's just one defender coming at you and you stepping wrong on that ankle, or somebody putting a little hot sauce on it after they tackle them. You know what I'm saying? That could alter that game. But again, and that's the reason he's baby GOAT. It's one-legged he pulled that off against the Bengals 2 weeks ago, right?
Wild. Wild.
Right. It's crazy. And it wasn't a situation where it was like, oh, it seemed like it bothered him a little bit. No, it affected him, right? And he still did it with two receivers out, right? It's one of those things still where he's baby GOAT. I love him to death, but this may be the kryptonite, the green kryptonite. When you have that pass rush, you know what I'm saying? Like, this could go back to a former Eagles head coach, was the Bears defensive coordinator when the Bears won their only Super Bowl, and Buddy Ryan. When you're talking about that much pressure up front on your ass, even as great as Patrick Mahomes is, he has lesser weapons. I will say this. A lot of people thought that it was going to take the Chiefs at least a season to kind of figure out what they were going to do to operate optimally offensively with Tyreek Hill being traded to the Dolphins. One of the biggest problems with the Chiefs were it was too much hero ball because they had a weapon like Tyreek Hill. I think it benefits them, and it benefits them in the Super Bowl. They kind of went back to fundamental football, running the ball a lot more with Pacheco, but also not going for chunk plays 24/7, to sit there and meticulously at times go down the field rather than boom, boom, boom. So I think it helps when you're facing a team with a defense like this, where now he doesn't have to play hero ball and hold on to the ball as long, because they're operating with, all right, we could take 8 yards here, we could take 5, we could do it like this, rather than trying to sit there and hit the knockout blow every series.
Yeah. And then, Joe, what do you think as well of this whole situation with Patrick Mahomes?
I think, what do you expect Patrick Mahomes to say? He's going to come out there and say that it still hurt. I mean, a high ankle sprain, I've had several of them, and they last a long time. And like Ken said, any wrong step, like you don't plan on. And that's the thing that makes Patrick Mahomes so great. It's the suddenness in his game, the things that he's able to pull out the hat. He's like a magician out there, and all it takes is, a little slide to one way and a little spin and a toss, and he's messed it up. So I think that's going to be key in this game, and is to, like Ken said, to work on the short passing game and get those small chunks. He's going to have to be able to dink and dunk down the field against this, Philadelphia Eagles defense, because that pass rush with Reddick, and Hargraves, they're animals. They led the league in sacks this year, and I mean, those are real monsters. Those are real monsters, and they play violent as well. You talked about the hot sauce on the ankle. Don't let Indomitian get into the game.
Oh, yeah.
and get a hit. It's a wrap. So I mean, hopefully he can stick it out and make it a competitive game all the way through. But it's going to be It's going to be a scary for him. The scary hours.
There's been a lot of There's been a lot of whining coming out of the Bay Area the last 10 days about, oh, well, if we just had our quarterback, so you beat us because we didn't have our quarterback, your third string quarterback, but you beat us if you didn't have our quarterback. Well, why is it that you didn't have that quarterback? Because Reddick got back there and took him out.
Yeah.
And he was on him. I mean, it was just like that. There's a reason he wasn't there. And then they went and took out the fourth stringer too. There's a reason the quarterbacks aren't there. It's not because the Eagles got lucky. It's because the Eagles are terminators. They go back there specifically to I've watched two teams fully this year, the Eagles and the Detroit Lions. There's one game where Jared Goff was on the ground repeatedly. It was the first game against the Eagles. That's the only game where they got through that offensive line like that and consistently took him down. That's what took down Kansas City and Tampa 2 years ago. It wasn't just that Mahomes was dealing with a foot problem. That offensive line got swarmed. And that's what it could look like on Sunday, except you have the Eagles who are even angrier. You use the word violent. That's what they are. They're nice guys for the most part off the field, but they got nothing but that dog in them the second that they get in between those lines, and they don't care. So that's the scare. And I if the Eagles weren't in this, I'd be all in on Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. That's my guy too. I love Patrick Mahomes. My mama would be mad at me if I said I didn't like. She loves Patrick Mahomes. That's her dude too. But I fear for what could happen to him if you miss one block. That's it. You miss one block, and either Hargraves or Reddick or Graham is back there, and that might be the end of the night for you.
What the hell is going on in the Bay? Look, real quick, Jay, my prediction of that game was, Brock Purdy has done a lot with being Mr. Irrelevant. I'm not trying to diss him. I could see him being a decent to good quarterback moving forward. But I was like, they're going to hurt him. Now, I didn't expect for him to get injured, but I was like, that defense? Yeah, that defense? Do you know what they're going to do to a guy that's played 9 games in the NFL with no reps in the preseason? They're going to hurt him.
I know we're going to get to the storyline thing. I think I'll jump the gun on this. The biggest storyline is that the Eagles, people act like the Eagles have something to prove. That somehow that they really, the team, I keep hearing this. Who did they really beat? They haven't beaten anybody. You've seen these teams they played. They all look bad. Well, maybe because the Eagles made them look bad. There's that. The reason that maybe these teams don't look that good when they play the Philadelphia Eagles is because the Philadelphia Eagles are that much better than the rest of them. I'd go up and down that schedule. They beat like 5 or 6 teams and finished above 500. They didn't beat a bunch of nobodies. They beat, what was it? The Giants were a playoff team. Jags were a playoff team. They beat the Giants 3 times. It's like you go up and Dallas was a playoff team. They beat them once. You go up and down that list. Detroit should have been a playoff team if not for that stupid game with Seattle in October. They would have been in the playoffs too. Beat them. They knocked down a bunch of good teams. And that's the storyline, is that the Eagles are out there angry because they're tired of hearing you didn't really beat anybody. You still got the Giants, who they beat 3 times and put like 150 points on them in 3 games, yapping about, oh, well, they got a free ride. They're not really that good. Or the 49ers openly saying that, oh, we were getting ready to expose that defense. No, you weren't. That was a 3rd string quarterback. You were. Now you got a 3rd string quarterback needing the type of surgery a baseball player gets because he almost got his arm torn off by Hassan Reddick. Okay, maybe the Eagles are just that much better, and that's the chip they have on their shoulder, because Philly always has a chip on its shoulder, always. And instead of being the underdog, this time it's like, okay, you just don't want to respect what we're doing. All right, who else we got to take out? We'll take him out too. And that's the thing I'm afraid of with Patrick Mahomes, is it only takes one missed block and they go for that ankle. And the next thing you know, it's the Chad Henne experience. And it could get really, really ugly for that man if he has to go out there against that Eagle defense. It's the Eagles feel like they don't really have something to prove. They just want to make an example out of somebody, and it might be a really great Kansas City team.
Yeah, and that's that's what I was thinking going into the Super Bowl now. Like, I'm like kind of thinking as a Bears fan, I'm like, I should probably just be cheering for the Eagles then, because I mean everybody compares Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts. I think it bodes well, right? Jalen Hurts wins it all right there, beats, and it's the thing is like Patrick Mahomes, I'm sure he'll get, I'm not saying Jalen Hurts won't, but like Mahomes, I'm sure was gonna be there, every year, like, from the AFC and all that. But like Jalen Hurts, he's a guy that like, a lot of people like to compare it to Fields. So we'll move on to a little bit of a fill in the blank here. So, and then we'll start with you, Jay, as our guest, with the Eagles. I'm sure yet, if the Eagles will beat the Chiefs if blank. Go ahead.
The Eagles will beat the Chiefs if they're able to keep Jalen Hurts as clean as possible in that backfield, and their defense doesn't overcommit and doesn't get out of their lane and out of their head. If they just simply play the way they're supposed to play, they're going to keep Kansas City close. At least this won't be a blowout. I'm saying that now, and then watch it be some crazy blowout. But this likely won't be a blowout in either direction. If they just simply stay in their lane defensively and don't get too overly aggressive, because that's what cost them against Washington when they lost that game. The one game that Hurts lost this year was Washington. They got overly aggressive and overconfident. If they stay squared up, they're going to win that second title in 5 years, because that defense is absolutely frightening to deal with.
And Joe, for you, as who do you think is going to win? And they're going to win if blank. Go ahead.
You know what? It's really hard for me to go against the Eagles because they're such a well-rounded team, and I'll say that the Eagles will win if Hassan Reddick has 3 to 4 sacks.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, we can.
He gets 4 sacks. We're definitely seeing Chad hitting it.
Exactly. Somebody else is going to get some sacks on that defensive line. If he has 3 to 4, you're talking about the quarterbacks getting sacked like 7 times at least. Oh man,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta go opposite just to keep this interesting. The Kansas City Chiefs win if Clark and Jones get 5 sacks, or just the defensive line in general, and Jones dominates, can sack Jalen Hurts around 5 times and kind of throw him off and kind of get in that backfield a little bit, just to give the Chiefs a little bit of shine here, since, man, it's bad out here for the Patrick Mahomes fans in the street. Damn it. This is for legacy, guys. This is for legacy. You got to understand. We got stuff to do.
Oh man, no, yeah, but I mean, somebody had to pick the Chiefs there, so I mean, good job, Ken. There, I mean, hopefully, look, the thing is, go ahead.
I've hit me, I think this morning, guys. So it hit me. I said, "Damn, the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, and you know why?" And here in Chicago, Jay. So until I've been wanting for them to play, I just want to rock on the radio rotation all day long for like 3 months, right? Now they play it all the time, right? Now I was like, oh my, this is the equivalent of We Fly High Giants NASCAR package. When bowling, I said the Eagles are going to win because I just want to rock. It's going to be the song. I said that's how it goes. Like I know now. I was like, Ken, just let it go. Just let it go, man. You guys not going to win it.
It's been all over the they're so big on it because Philly's like a giant college town. They play the Eagles fight song on the radio out here, and then they'll spin it right into either Meek Mill or I Want Rock. Like this is like one gigantic college town from top to bottom. Everybody's got some Eagle gear on. I've seen city workers wearing Eagles shirts. You got doctors wearing Eagle ties, and this city is rabid. I thought Chicago was rabid. I come from Detroit where we get a little crazy. I thought Boston was nuts. It don't touch Philly, man. How this says, it's a Philly thing. It really is a Philly thing out here. And most people don't understand, but they're going to see it. They're going to see it on Sunday. And I love the Kansas City Chiefs. Any other time I would pick Kansas City. The Eagles are just, they're something that's a level up. But if anybody could do it, it would be Mahomes. And you mentioned it's a legacy. Mm-hmm. You get a second ring. You can't really say too much else unless you're Tom Brady or Joe Montana. Right. You can't really say too much else. You get a second ring out here. It's gonna be something on Sunday. It really is.
Yeah, with Philly, if they win the Super Bowl, as long as you tell them just to not get on those bus stops, because we all know oh man, oh my goodness,
one of our reporters was standing right there when it happened. And she couldn't stop laughing. She just saw him just go right this pancaked right through. And it was the worst thing is that they fall through there and they immediately hop up and they're just laughing, yelling, "Go Birds." It's like that's
yeah.
They're built a
sense.
special kind of different here in Philly that I didn't think I would ever see anyplace else until I got out here.
Yeah, I believe that. And finally, guys, we'll finish off with who do you guys think is going to be the Super Bowl MVP? And of course, Jay, we'll start with you. Who do you think will be the Super Bowl MVP this year?
I'm going to surprise a couple people, and his name's been mentioned a couple times here. Hassan Reddick, because he probably was the MVP of the NFC Championship game too, and not just for taking Brock Purdy out, but for being just a menace back there that entire game. This feels like the type of game where somebody thinks it could be Jalen Hurts, or it could be Patrick Mahomes or Kelsey, or maybe Devontae Smith. If that defense goes crazy, Hassan Reddick, who grew up across the river in Camden, New Jersey, and went to Temple, is going to be Super Bowl MVP for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that man won't need to buy a meal, buy a drink the rest of his life anywhere in Philly, in South Jersey, in Delaware. He can go wherever he wants. He's a made man. And that might be the guy who actually gets Super Bowl MVP. If he gets 3 sacks, oh, there's no question he's doing. He's like the next Reggie White out here if he gets 3 sacks.
Hey, we go you, Ken. What do you think? Who do you think is going to be the MVP?
I mean, before he said it, I knew where he was going, and that's where I was thinking too. Alec, let me just do the Eagle side. Hassan Reddick. It's not even a question. Hassan Reddick, even though they always want to give it to a quarterback, so that the quarterbacks have a unfair advantage. So even if Hassan Reddick is the reason, but Jalen has numbers that look decent, you never know how they can go with that. But then on the flip side, I'm gonna go with Chris Jones on the Kansas City side, man. To be honest with you, because they need it. They need it so bad. To be honest with you, like that's the only way possible that I have. And again, I love Patrick Mahomes to death, so I'm already on him. But they need a spark on defense to stop that juggernaut running offense and to slow the Eagles' run game down. If they can do that, there's a chance. All right, there's a chance. So I'm going to go with both 2 defenders actually getting on either team getting the MVP of this upcoming Super Bowl.
Look at Joe. What about you, Joe?
I was definitely going to go with Hassan Reddick, but I'm going to go ahead and switch gears, and I'll go ahead and say Jalen Hurts. I think the work he's put in on his game, and I like the story. I like his work ethic, and like I said before, he's won everywhere he's been. And I think he's
has he though, Joe? I didn't want to interrupt the first time because Tua actually won that one. I was pretty upset being an Alabama fan. All right, because like pull his ass out. But I just want to put that in there real quick.
Well, you know what? He won. He won before Tua got there too, though. So
no, I don't think he doesn't have a national championship without Tua.
He doesn't.
No, he does not. Believe you me, as Alabama fan. I believe you me. No, he does not.
Okay. Well, anyway. Well, he winning is a part of his pedigree.
You're right.
Winning is a part of his pedigree, and I think that with the way he works and puts it on his game, I think it would be a great story for him being the 2nd round pick and to becoming a Super Bowl MVP. So I'm gonna go with Jalen.
Yeah, no, and see, with my fill in the blank, I didn't want to spoil it, so I'll go with the Kansas City Chiefs will beat the Eagles if Patrick Mahomes and Isaiah Pacheco have a big game. Like, if Pacheco didn't really go off against the Bengals, but if if the Eagles, I know with their strong defense, if they're able, if they give a little bit of leeway to Pacheco, it's going to be dangerous there. So I'm going to give, and then I'm going to go off, not going to be a quarterback. I'm going to go Pacheco for a Super Bowl MVP. Not only because of his dance moves as well, because I don't know if you guys saw, he was going off doing his dance moves. He was doing the I want to rock dance as well too. So it's going to be a battle. I want to see, even if Kelsey from the Eagles will as well do the dance or, have a dance off or something like that. But it's gonna be a great game regardless. But I think it's a good place to wrap things up. Jay, I want to thank you for coming on. It's really appreciated taking time out of your day to come on. I want to thank also Ken Davis and Joe Tanksley as well for coming on our WARR Media Super Bowl special. I want to thank everyone for watching and hope everyone enjoys the big game on Sunday. Take it easy, everybody.
Peace.